A common concern is often that you aren't able to manage performance in the same way if people are working different hours or people are working in different locations. So we thought it was a good idea to just reflect on actually how you can keep a focus on performance, just some different techniques that are being used. So the first one that we thought we would have a look at is some work that Intel had started. So Andy Grove and John Doerr had written this book called Measure What Matters. And it's all around using objectives and key results to make sure that people are very, very clear about what they're expected to do. And it's really a way of setting goals, particularly across groups and teams. So where perhaps you want people to work cross-functionally, to deliver a particular outcome, you might have an overarching objective that actually 6 people have. But different individuals can have the key result underneath it that enable you to achieve that. So it's really a way of making sure that you're crystal clear on outcomes and therefore are worrying less about presenteeism and the activity that's been happening in an office. You just focus on that kind of end game. So really the OKR framework is a collaborative goal-setting framework that helps teams or groups of people reach their goals through really identifiable and measurable results. The frameworks can work across teams. And interestingly, again, Bank of Ireland that I'm working with at the moment use them across the whole of their organisation. So their leadership team have some OKRs between them. So it's not about the corporate banking team do this and a retail banking team do that. It's all around their kind of collective responsibilities, and they're all measured on those collectively. So they have to deliver those components as a team. There are 5 core benefits you get from them: focus, accountability, alignment, transparency, and engagement. OKRs are a way of helping bring purpose because they're a bit of a stretch. It also reflects on kind of what we're here as a group to do. It can give purpose to individuals, so OKRs can be set individually for tasks too. Reinforces purpose and builds those connections and sense of agency. So, I am in charge of kind of how I'm going to do things. So OKRs really just focus on that, on stretch targets, if you like. So the clue's in the name. So by definition, they have 2 components. One are the objectives. So what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And what are the key results? So how will you measure whether or not those objectives have been achieved? So definitely it's not about activity. So it's not about you will do these things. It's about you will achieve that big thing. And this is how we'll measure whether you've done it or not. So the objectives tend to be qualitative goals. The OKR framework encourages them to be quite stretching. So they are supposed to be ambitious. They are supposed to be aspirational, if you like. They can be long-lived. It might be we're going to be the best-rated law firm. Might be an objective that you might use. Or they can link to the financial years or the next quarter. Again, an organisation that I'm working with at the moment actually set theirs over an 18-month time frame, but they expect some measures to hit within 9 months. So they say 9 months is enough time. If we give people 12, they'll take 12. 9 months is normally enough time to do a meaty thing and to deliver some real results. And it stops people just being in this annual cycle. So it just encourages a little bit more longevity. But they do ask that some of those key results would have a mid-term deliverable. And really those key results being metrics wherever possible so that they are measurable and verifiable. Each objective might have 3 or 5 results that sit underneath them. So that could be about client satisfaction, or it could be about the number of clients, as well as colleague satisfaction or utilisation or whatever it is. And you may well have a team objective that has key results beneath them with named individuals responsible for those. So we might have an objective of making sure that the connection story is spoken about by 10,000 people next year. And Diane's role in that could be to get people attending courses. Mine could be to develop all of the content. So you can allocate those results underneath it, but actually we have to work together to achieve that overall outcome. So it's really a lot about interplay between teams. One of the things that people often ask, so what are the differences difference between kind of KPIs, so key performance indicators, and OKRs. So both of those are important for performance, but KPIs would typically measure against a known benchmark, and that might be all of our clients get an email back within 48 hours, or whatever that metric might be. And then you can measure those gaps over time, whereas the OKRs are normally those stretch targets. So it might be that we want to do such great work for clients that they stop getting in touch with us. It's not about how quickly we respond, it's actually I want to change the nature of the engagement with them. So both are important. So if you're using KPIs, I wouldn't say to get rid of them. But I think OKRs can help you to manage that performance. And then why are they important in terms of hybrid or remote working? Telenor, a telecoms company in Finland, essentially use that OKR framework to manage people who work off-site for most of the time. So 20 years ago, I was chatting to the execs of Nokia about why they were so good at mobile banking and mobile services, and they went, because it snows. So if you live in a country where you can't leave the house for 3 weeks, you get really good at finding mobile services. The whole of our economy can't stop because it snows. I did exactly the same thing when I spoke to the guys at Telenor and said, why is it that you're these bastions of remote working? And they went, because it snows. And staff aren't able to get in for big chunks of time. The highways might be clear, but getting to the highway, impossible. So guess what? Often you'll find that lots of the innovation is where humans have to be ingenious. This company really focus in on using OKRs, and they have this tight, loose, tight framework that they use. And it's really about being tight at the outset on your expectations, on your goal setting, and on your ambitions. Being really, really clear about what you want people to do, either as a group or as individuals. And then the loose component is giving people freedom to figure out how they're going to achieve it. So literally, they will not be told, you have to meet those people, and you have to do that activity, and you have to produce that report, and you have to come and see the board. It's absolutely loose. So I need you to hit that. Work out how you're going to do it. Work it out amongst yourselves, how you're going to get there. You are the best people to work out how to meet those targets. And often this is where they will use mentoring and kind of workplace buddies for new trainees and new recruits. So they tend to give people more support in that loose phase. And then obviously tight again in terms of follow-up and accountability. So they are very, very outcome focused. Did we get the outcomes that we set out to achieve? And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have failed if we didn't do that, but they have quite robust conversations about why didn't we get there? And what they find is that people do take more accountability in the model where they have the freedom to determine how they're going to get there, partly because people feel more invested, but also because it means you can't blame when I can't say, I couldn't achieve that because Diane didn't answer my emails. Well, it's up to you to work out how to navigate that, then, isn't it? And ask Charlotte instead. So the conversation becomes less about activity and literally about, did you get to where you needed to be? And they use that framework for remote working. So it is all around having those really, really clear, tight conversations about, this is where I want you to get to. These are some of the key results that we're going to see throughout the year. On you go. And then you work wherever you like to do that. They invested a lot in this trust-based leadership. You have to jump off the cliff at the front to trust that that is going to get you there in terms of performance. But they could see enough case studies and they had enough confidence that that would materialise. To start off with, they also had key results that had to be delivered within 3 months. So there were some baby steps of, the worst thing they were going to lose was 3 months of productivity, but actually found that they could see there was a big uptick. They use OKRs across the board, so their board, as well as groups of people, have OKRs. And you can expect to have an OKR with different colleagues that you work for. So there'll be some for a project team, for example, that you work with, but also with groups of people who do the same job as you. So actually, they'll have a stretch objective for a business development team, loose, called a team, but really a group of people who have the same job. And they do have to improve their practice or improve their, they'll always have something for a professional group as well as their kind of project activity or the day-to-day pieces that they use. What's interesting for them in terms of location and flexibility, they really wanted to make sure that their rules around coming into the office were based on two things: social events and networking, particularly because they had trainees and new people who were coming in. So there is an expectation that you attend social events in person, but also training. They took all of their training offline. So there's no online training modules, there's no mandatory training by videos. It's all classroom-based learning, because they wanted to emphasise that it's okay to be a novice. It's okay to get things wrong. Part and parcel of us being open to that kind of growth mindset, or also failing fast and learning and achieving results in a different way, is effectively by being crap at things at points, and that's about being a novice. So all of their teams, their leadership teams, everybody come in to do training so that they can be novices together, and they can, it's part of their kind of demonstrating their vulnerability and building trust with their staff too. So really interesting as a place-based organisation that I could understand, for example, if Newcastle University said, all of our training has to be in person. Everybody comes in for training, but apart from that, you can do other tasks at home. So really quite interesting for them about how they balanced this performance framework with remote working and reset some of the expectations about what was important to them. So does in-person matter? So what I brought are some fireflies. And the reason the fireflies are here is because originally people thought that fireflies light up to mate. That was kind of part of the attraction signals. And then actually, when they study fireflies, they realised that brain oscillations start to become in sync. So you get neural synchrony from being together, and that's what makes their bums light up. And interestingly, what's since been discovered in humans is that we're no different. I'm not asking anyone to show me their bum and whether it's lighting up with proximity, but there's a view that actually physical proximity is very, very, very important to humans, and that this neural synchrony is actually what gives people a sense of groundedness. So even if people can feel socially uncomfortable at times, actually being close to someone when it's quiet will do more to lower their blood pressure and lower their heart rate and center them than being on their own at home. So there's, I mean, it sounds very, very highfalutin, but these resonance theories of consciousness, it would suggest that hippies were right all along. It's about good vibrations all around. And actually it is really, really important for humans, and actually employers do have a role to make sure that they do bring humans together, because it is a basis of connection that's needed, and we can see physiologically, never mind psychologically, that is something that we can learn from fireflies and their shiny bums.